Welcome to Alifes, anonymous life stories where real people share raw, untold experiences. Today's guest is Ashley. For privacy reasons, all names and identifying details have been changed. Ashley, we're grateful you're here. Can you take us back to how this all began?
Thank you. I never imagined I'd be telling this story. I thought I had everything figured out, at least in my marriage. Daniel, my husband, and I had been together for 7 years. We'd weathered a lot, but we'd kept the fire alive. We weren't one of those couples who drifted apart with routine. If anything, we leaned into each other. Intimacy wasn't just regular, it was passionate. Every week, sometimes more. It wasn't just about physical connection, it was emotional. We explored, pushed boundaries, but always together. One night, after one of those particularly intense sessions where we were both breathless, tangled in each other, Daniel kissed me softly, brushed my hair back, and said, "You know, we could take this even further." I was still floating, skin warm from his touch. "Further how?" I asked, teasing. His eyes held mine, but there was a flicker of something deeper, nervous excitement. "What if we invited someone else? Just once. I mean, we've talked about fantasies before." He trailed off, testing the waters. I smiled, shook my head lightly, but I didn't immediately shut it down. He picked up his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen to me. A photo. The man was tall, athletic, confident. The kind of person you might imagine leading a team, maybe coaching, maybe owning the room just by walking into it. Daniel said, "This is Matt. He's from the gym. We've talked, hypothetically." I felt my pulse quicken, but I played it cool. "You've talked?" Daniel laughed softly, running a hand through his hair. "Just joking around, you know. Locker room talk. But he's open to it. If you were, I kissed him again, slow and deep, then pulled back. Let's just enjoy this for now." And we did. That night. Again. Bodies intertwined, the heat of our skin blending until sleep finally took us. But somewhere beneath all that satisfaction, the thought lingered. The photo. The idea.
Did you think about it after that, or did it fade?
For a while, I let it slip away. Weeks passed. Life got busy. Work, errands, family. The kind of things that distract you just enough to make you think you've moved on. But the truth is, I hadn't forgotten. And then something happened. It was a Tuesday. Late afternoon. I'd just finished running some errands, walking past the local gym Daniel always went to. I wasn't thinking about that night, or the photo, or anything like that. I had my head down, flipping through emails on my phone, when I bumped right into someone. Papers flew from my bag, scattered across the sidewalk. "God, I'm so sorry," a voice said, deep, smooth, familiar. I looked up, and there he was. Matthew. At first, I didn't recognize him. But then it clicked. The jawline, the eyes, the confidence. The same man Daniel had shown me weeks before. He crouched down immediately, helping gather the papers. "I should have been looking where I was going," he said, flashing an apologetic smile. I mumbled something like, "It's okay." But my brain was scrambling. He didn't seem to recognize me. I mean, why would he? But I knew him. He straightened up, handing me the papers. "Let me at least buy you a coffee or something. I feel bad." I shook my head, smiling politely. "No, really, it's fine." But when I walked away, my heart was racing. My mind kept replaying the encounter. The way he looked at me. The way his hand brushed mine. And that sense of familiarity that burned just beneath the surface. It wasn't until I got home, sitting alone with a cup of tea, that I realized exactly who he was. The friend from Daniel's photo. The man Daniel had wanted to bring into our bedroom. And now? I couldn't get him out of my head. But I wasn't about to walk up to my husband and say, "Hey, remember that guy you suggested?" I bumped into him, and now I can't stop thinking about it. Number that wasn't going to happen. Instead, I buried it. For a while. Until another night after Daniel and I made love. Slow, tender, connected. I let the idea surface again. Lying there, my head on his chest, I asked softly, "You ever think about that night? About Matt?" Daniel's body tensed, just slightly. His breath caught. I mean, yeah, sometimes. Why? I traced lazy circles on his skin. I don't know, I've been thinking. Maybe I could be open to it. His reaction was immediate, a mix of shock and excitement. His hand tightened around me, pulling me closer. Really? I nodded, feeling the heat rise in my chest. If you still want it. Daniel kissed me hard, passionately. That night we barely slept. We made love again and again. Like the idea itself had reignited something fierce between us.
Ashley, after that night when you brought up the idea again, what happened next?
We didn't rush. For days afterward, Daniel was on edge, but in a good way. Every glance, every touch between us seemed heavier, charged with something unsaid. The anticipation made even the smallest gestures electric. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, Daniel turned to me, eyes full of that same excitement. "So, should we set something up?" I hesitated for a beat, then smiled, biting my lip. "I think I'm ready." He wasted no time. Within days, he'd arranged it. Saturday night. Matt would come over for dinner. Simple, casual, no pressure. At least that was the plan. The day felt surreal. I tried to keep busy, cleaning the house, picking the right dress. Not too formal, not too obvious. Soft fabric that clung in the right places, the kind that feels good against bare skin. When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped. Matt stepped inside, calm and confident, wearing that easy smile. He greeted Daniel with a handshake, me with a soft nod, his gaze lingering just long enough to make my skin prickle. Dinner was polite. Conversation flowed easily. Work, the gym, the usual small talk. But beneath the surface, something heavier pulsed between us. After we finished eating, Daniel poured wine, the three of us moving to the couch. The lights were dimmer now, the room softer. I sat between them, feeling the warmth of their bodies on either side, the tension thickening with each passing moment. Matt's hand brushed mine, just lightly as he reached for his glass. The contact sent a ripple through me. I felt Daniel watching, his breathing shifting, slower, deeper. Matt turned toward me, his voice lower now. "You're sure about this?" I nodded, my throat dry, pulse racing beneath my skin. "I am." He leaned in slowly, giving me the chance to pull away. I didn't. His lips met mine, soft at first, tasting, testing, before deepening. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the line of my cheek. My body responded before my mind caught up, tilting into him, lips parting under the pressure of his. I felt Daniel's presence beside me, his breath unsteady, the heat of his body radiating. Matt's hand slid down, fingers grazing the curve of my neck, tracing lower until they rested at my waist. His touch was deliberate, patient, drawing out each sensation like he had all the time in the world. The kiss broke, and I turned, meeting Daniel's gaze. His eyes were dark, filled with something between awe and hunger. "Come closer," I whispered. Daniel leaned in, pressing his lips to mine. Slower, tender. The difference between their touches was striking. Matt's confidence, Daniel's emotion. My skin burned with the contrast. Matt's hand found my thigh, sliding higher with measured intention. The heat of his palm against my bare skin sent a shiver through me. My body tensed, then softened under the pressure, leaning into the sensations. I heard Daniel groan softly beside me, the sound vibrating against my lips. Matt's mouth found my neck, warm breath skating over my skin as his lips traced downward. Each kiss left a trail of fire, my head falling back, giving in. Daniel's hand slid around my waist, pulling me closer as Matt continued his slow exploration. My senses blurred. Two different touches, two different energies, both building towards something I couldn't name. Matt's hand slipped beneath the fabric of my dress, fingers grazing the sensitive skin of my inner thigh, moving higher, bolder. My breath caught, the air thick around us. Daniel pressed his forehead to mine, his voice rough. "You okay?" I nodded, unable to form words, lost in the rush of sensation. Matt's lips found my collarbone, teeth grazing just enough to make me gasp, his fingers tightening around my thigh. Daniel's hand trailed up my back, anchoring me between them. Every nerve in my body buzzed, straining toward their touch, their attention. I felt the heat of Matt's mouth lower still, his breath skating over my chest, the edge of my dress slipping down inch by inch. Daniel's lips brushed my shoulder, slow, reassuring. Every touch, every breath between us felt magnified. Time slowed, stretched, pulling me deeper into that space where thought faded, leaving only sensation.
That sounds incredibly intense. Ashley, were there any moments of hesitation?
For a moment, yes. But the way they moved, how they touched me, it felt like I was floating between them, completely untethered. For a moment, yes. But the way they moved, how they touched me, it felt like I was floating between them, completely untethered. Matt's hands, confident and sure, guided me gently, while Daniel's presence stayed steady, grounding. Their touches contrasted, one demanding, the other familiar. But together, they stirred something deeper in me than I ever anticipated. The straps of my dress slipped further down, the soft fabric pooling at my waist. Matt's lips explored the newly exposed skin, tracing slow, deliberate patterns across my collarbone and chest. Every graze of his mouth sent waves of heat cascading through me, leaving me breathless, trembling. Daniel leaned in again, kissing me deeply, his hand threading through my hair, anchoring me as if afraid I'd drift too far into the moment. His touch was softer, almost reverent, but the tension in his body told me just how tightly wound he was beneath the surface. Matt's hands never stopped moving. One explored the curve of my waist, the other sliding over the smooth plane of my thigh, coaxing my body to respond. My skin felt alive, every nerve ending awake, eager for more. Then Matt paused. His gaze met Daniel's over my shoulder, something silent passing between them. I felt the shift before I even saw it. Daniel sat back slightly, his breathing shallow. Matt's hand brushed against Daniel's arm, a soft but deliberate gesture. I turned my head, my heart pounding, watching as Matt's fingers lingered, tracing up Daniel's forearm, slow and calculated. Daniel didn't pull away. His jaw tightened, but he stayed still, his eyes flickering between mine and Matt's. I felt a sudden jolt of surprise ripple through me, but it wasn't unpleasant. It was unexpected, unspoken, but somehow added to the heady swirl of sensations already flooding my body. This wasn't something we had planned, not something Daniel and I had ever discussed. Matt leaned in closer to Daniel, his lips brushing against the shell of his ear. I couldn't hear what was whispered, but I saw the flush rise in Daniel's cheeks, his hands clenching slightly. Then Matt turned back to me, his eyes smoldering. He kissed me again, harder this time, while his hand reached out, gripping Daniel's thigh firmly, possessively. Daniel groaned, his body tensing, but he didn't stop it. He let himself be drawn in further. The three of us moved together, a slow, tangled dance of touch and sensation. Matt's dominance contrasted with Daniel's surrender, and I felt caught between them, exhilarated by the power and vulnerability in the room. At some point, the three of us ended up on the bed. I lay back, Matt's hands skimming over my body, Daniel trailing behind, following Matt's lead. Their hands overlapped sometimes, brushing against each other as they explored me, as if testing the boundaries of what was acceptable. Matt leaned over me, his breath hot against my skin, while Daniel knelt beside him, eyes dark with a mix of arousal and uncertainty. When Matt's hand slid lower, Daniel's followed, and for a moment their hands touched, lingering briefly before parting again. The shock of that contact sent a shiver through me, even as my body responded, arching into their touch. It was more than I expected, more than I'd allowed myself to imagine. And yet, I didn't want it to stop. We moved together for what felt like hours, the lines between us blurring, the world outside dissolving until only the rhythm of breath and the heat of skin remained. Eventually, spent and breathless, we collapsed together. Daniel on one side, Matt on the other. The room filled with the sound of slowing heartbeats, soft breaths, and something heavier beneath it all, a tension that hadn't fully unraveled. I lay there between them, my body humming with the aftermath of everything we'd shared, feeling both satiated and unsettled.
That night must have been overwhelming. Did it change how you saw Daniel or Matt?
Yes, but not immediately. The shift was subtle, creeping in later. At first, I thought we'd shared something powerful, something that deepened our connection. But a few weeks later, I found out the truth. I was at Daniel's office, waiting to meet him for lunch. He was running late, so I wandered the hallways, casually glancing at the framed photos on the walls. Company events, team meetings. And then I saw it. A photo of Daniel standing beside Matt. Not just as friends. Matt was positioned at the center, shaking hands with the CEO. His title etched on the plaque beneath, Senior Vice President of Operations. My heart dropped. The realization hit me like ice water down my spine. Matt wasn't just Daniel's gym buddy. He was his boss, his superior. And that night, it wasn't just a fantasy for Daniel. It was a transaction. The pieces fell into place. The lingering looks, the whispers, the tension between them. Daniel hadn't just shared me with a friend. He'd offered me up to his boss. When I confronted him, he crumbled. He admitted everything. That it had been Matt's idea. That the night we shared was meant to seal the deal on Daniel's promotion. That my husband had agreed, because it was just one night. He tried to convince me it was harmless, that it didn't mean anything. But I knew better. I left him that day. But Matt? The strange thing was, I couldn't get him out of my head. There was a power in him, something I couldn't resist. We stayed in touch, tentative at first, then more. Now, we're together. Daniel lost his job a few months later. Word got around, and Matt made sure he was cut loose. I should feel guilty, but I don't. Because that night woke something in me. And I'm not going back.
Thank you for sharing, Ashley. To our listeners, this has been Alifes, Anonymous Life Stories. Stay tuned for more.